Ruth Bader Ginsburg has died, and we have a SCOTUS slot open. Trump is going to nominate someone probably within the next few days, and the Republicans will try to get that person confirmed by the Republicans in the Senate will try to get that person confirmed definitely by the election, preferably by the election, but absolutely by the end of the year. They're going to rush this through. They might not even do the normal length of hearings. They might try to cut them short as much as possible just to shave the time down. And I don't blame them, because this is going to be an extremely contentious hearing and an extremely contentious seat switch, because although it's just the Republicans fighting for their side and the Democrats fighting for their side, just like in 2016 with Merrick Garland, the difference here is that the historical balance of the court could potentially shift for decades in favor of conservative judges. Now, so depending on the political issue, I'm either a conservative in my sense of the ultimate correct policy, a liberal, a libertarian, or I disagree with all those people and I think all of their opinions on a particular issue are defunct, or I fuse all those ideas together and I come to some sort of hybrid conclusion. That's where I end up. That's pretty much the only places you can end up in the political spectrum. But for me, on judge appointments, I am essentially conservative. I believe heavily in freedom and basic human rights, and I believe that the structure of the Constitution that is fighting against government totalitarian takeover and is trying to preserve our rights and trying to extend those rights, such as in the so it's interesting that people will attack whoever Trump picks for being potentially anti-Roe versus Wade, which is true. I think that's valid, especially if Amy Barrett is picked. But for pro-life people, that's a good thing, and for anti-abortion people, that's a good thing. So, and honestly, what's funny is it doesn't even make it so that it's illegal nationally to have abortions. Just makes it so that it's up to the states instead of it being mandated at the federal level to be available in every single state at all times. But it's, abortion is an extremely contentious issue because it comes down to your most fundamental values. And I mean, it's going to be heated. It's going to be crazy. People are going to be crazy. So Roe versus Wade is on the table, but people will say that this person will be anti-LGBTQ rights or whatever. But Neil Gorsuch, Neil Gorsuch voted in favor of extending sex discrimination laws. He voted to extend that to people that are transgender, because it's essentially still judging a male or female for behaving in a way related to their sex that you find inappropriate. So it's still sexual discrimination on some level or in some way. It's a complicated decision, but it still, was a fundamentally liberal one. But not in the sense that people say liberal, because at least it was trying to extend legislation that already exists into areas that it makes sense that it would apply in, even though it's complicated. But it doesn't take away rights from anybody or impede on anyone's freedoms, really. So it's totally okay. And it still, in my opinion, fits within the framework of a conservative judge, because a conservative judge just means that they're trying to conserve the structure of the Constitution, and they're trying to preserve or conserve our rights. So I'm 100% in favor of conservative judges across the board. I think that the judiciary should be conservative fundamentally. The legislature will be progressive, and the executive branch will be kind of more neutral, hopefully. It depends on the president, obviously. But we're going to have the balance of the court sway for the first time in a very long time. And people on the left are going to lose their shit. And I'm just saying this not even as a look at them. I'm telling you just as a warning. The Kavanaugh hearings were horrendous, extremely vicious, totally turned into a show, you know. I'm all for Me Too, so I'll address Me Too a little bit right now. In any situation where there's an accusation of sexual misconduct or sexual assault, we need to take it extremely seriously from the jump. That doesn't mean, now I want to make a distinction between that and believing all women. Believing all women means you assume women don't tell lies whenever this comes up, and that's obviously not the case. There are lies. But when you take it seriously, what that means is that you're taking the accusation and the potential falsehood of that accusation seriously at the same time. If it's true that this person was violated sexually in that most intimate way, then whoever did that is an evil dirtbag piece of scum who, at a bare minimum, should be locked away for life. And if it's real, then we need to be sympathetic to the victim. We need to listen to them. We need to hear their story, and we need to try to at least act as neutrally as we can. If not, you know, most people will try to be warm to the victim. But it's entirely possible in every single one of these scenarios, it's entirely possible that the accusation is false and that the person being accused is the victim in the actual situation. And being falsely accused of rape and being branded as a rapist is an extremely serious deal. So we need to take it seriously in both of those ways, and then use our common sense, our discernment, and the evidence, any evidence that we can use to say that this person's story is consistent, they're telling the truth, they at least were there, and this could have happened, or they have no ties, they probably have never met that person, it's just a random accusation being thrown out there. The evidence will help us, you know, walk through that. And then, so as it relates to the Kavanaugh situation, Dr. Christy Blasey Ford was lying, in my opinion. Now, I took her accusation very seriously. I did not know Brett Kavanaugh, and I didn't really care about him from any other guy. So it's not that I set out to come to this conclusion, but when I listened to the hearings in 2018, she wore glasses to make her eyes really big. She tucked herself down like this to make her seem really small. And she talked like this. And then when the story came up for her to talk about the actual accusation, she didn't have waves of emotion as you would normally expect. You know, someone chokes up and their voice starts to kind of gradually be affected by the emotions, and then it kind of dials up and down a little bit. When she went before the story, she had a tone. And then when she went into the story, she switched into a very consistent, solid way of speaking that sounds sad, but was, in my opinion, a simulation of sounding sad. And then and it was consistent, one beat the whole time. And then once the story was done, back to her normal demeanor. It was very, very clinical, and so I thought it was fake. Her evidence. She named 4 people that would have been at the party where the assault accusation in the first place, it's good to tell you this. The assault accusation was that he and another guy pinned her down on a bed and started feeling her up, and she got out from underneath them and then took off, and they were just laughing at her after the fact. Which would be traumatizing. I mean, having 2 people, let alone 2 guys, you know, bigger, stronger, I would assume, jumping on you, that is horrible. It's not rape, but that doesn't mean it's not bad. It's definitely sexual assault, definitely a violation of that person's sovereignty. So it's bad. But the 4 people she named that would have been at that party said that they were never at a party with her and Brett Kavanaugh at the same time. 4 different people that she named went against her. All the other evidence suggests that this was not the case. She was a Democrat donor and political operative, which is not in and of itself. It's just part of the story, but it's not something you could just judge someone on. Anyways, so she was lying. Kavanaugh just got dragged through the mud, and he will forever be labeled as a sexual predator by many people who are of the left and just absorbed that narrative and didn't dive deeper. But we're going to see a whole lot worse this time around with whoever it is. Now, they won't be able to use Me Too to try to get them this time around if it's a woman. Trump has said he wants to pick a woman, which would be fitting in a certain sense, in a certain way, to, you know, replace Ginsburg's seat. Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say on the matter beyond that, other than I think Trump will probably pick whoever he picks, if it's Amy Coney Barrett or whatever her name is, or the lady from Florida that he's considering. I can't remember her name. Whoever he picks, they'll be qualified. He had a list in 2016, and then he's added a few names recently to that list of Supreme Court people he would pick, and everyone on that list is sort of pre-stamped to. It's unlikely that they would not get through the Senate, and in my opinion, everyone that I've seen on that list fits the bill for what you want for a judge. So it's a whole lot of controversy over nothing. I think Roe versus Wade, it's unlikely that Roe versus Wade would be overturned, or even that any judge would attempt to overturn it without the majority vote on the Supreme Court. But I do think that once they have the majority on the Supreme Court, and guys like Kavanaugh, guys like Gorsuch, they might surprise people on the right, surprise cynical people on the right, and not surprise anyone on the left, and actually vote to try to overturn Roe versus Wade. So that's not an illegitimate concern, but yeah, it's going to be nasty. It's going to be really nasty. All right. This is the end of my short message here. I hope you guys have a good one, and podcast is coming your way soon.